Good evening. Everyone turn on your mics. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 14th Daytona Beach Shores Commission meeting. Joanna, can you take a roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor Miller,
Here.
Vice Mayor Politis,
Here.
Commissioner Bryan,
Here.
Commissioner Economos,
Here.
Commissioner Lindauer.
Here.
Thank you, Joanna. Reverend Bob, please lead us in invocation this evening.
I invite all to stand as you are able and join me in this invocation. Good and gracious Holy One, we gather on this crisp spring day thankful for life, for the beauty of your creation, for the opportunity to come together for the good of community and to express care and concern for our city and our neighbors. Send your care and wisdom to rest upon us, inspire our conscious action, and direct the work of our leaders in positive ways. Protect the staff and safety personnel in the work they accomplish on our behalf, and bring forth from us the appreciation they deserve. In all ways, may we know your presence in this place and in the decisions that must be made in this time. For we ask these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Bob. Okay, I have the privilege tonight of reading a proclamation, and this is on behalf of our Director of Finance, Lori Irwin. And this is whereas the Florida Government Finances Officers Association is a professional association founded in 1937 that serves more than 3,300 professionals from state, county, and city government, school districts, colleges and universities, special district, and private firms. And whereas the FGFOA is a professional resource that provides opportunities through education, networking, leadership, and information, and whereas Government Finance Professionals Week is meant to recognize government finance professionals who provide a vital service to our state, county, and community. And whereas the City of Daytona Beach Shores finance professionals work hard every day to ensure that financial policies are followed and that the processes in place are efficient. And whereas the City of Daytona Beach Shores finance professionals have a wide range of job responsibilities, including but not limited to processing invoices for payment, preparing financial statements, ensuring compliance with legal regulations, and reviewing financial reports. And whereas the city financial professionals serving in the finance department reflect great credit upon the city and contribute greatly to ensuring the financial health of the organization. Now, therefore, but it be resolved this 14th day of March, 2023, that I extend my sincere appreciation to our finance professionals for their hard work and dedication, and proclaim the week of March 20th to 24th, 2023 as Government Finance Professionals Week in the City of Daytona Beach Shores. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of this city to be affixed. So Lori, thank you and your department for everything you do. You're just a valuable asset to our community and to our staff. We appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, next we will go on to the approval of minutes, and this is our City Commission meeting that took place on February 28th, 2023. Do you hear a motion to accept those minutes as is?
So move.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. So that was, the motion was by Commissioner Lindauer, second by Commissioner Bryan. And any discussion on any part of those minutes? If not, Joanna, can you take a roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Lindauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Politis,
Yes.
Commissioner Economos,
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes, thank you, Joanna. Next, we're going to go on to the consent agenda. We have 6 items on today's consent agenda. Is there any that we need to remove before we approve? Okay, hearing none, can I ask for approval on those 6 items?
So move.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Joanna, we have a motion from Commissioner Lindauer and a second from our Vice Mayor Politis. Any discussion on any of the items? If not, Joanna, can you take a roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Lindauer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Politis,
Yes.
Commissioner Economos,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryan,
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes, thank you. And we do have someone that does want to speak on this number 7, section A. If you'd like to come forward, please state your name and your address. Joanna, if you want to put up the,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
Good
Hi.
afternoon. My name is Amanda Balboa, and I represent Aero Service and Towing. My address is 541 Carswell Avenue, and that's in Holly Hill. I do have some papers to pass out. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
I know I'm on a short time.
No, that's okay. We won't count
Use
that,
my
Joanna.
minutes wisely.
Okay.
To you here too as
Thank
well.
you.
Copy. Thank you. Just some facts and figures.
Thank
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Joanna, you can start it when she gets back to
Thank you.
the.
Thank you. Okay, copy as well? Thank you. Would you like a copy over here as well?
Joanna, if you don't have it, just let me know.
Thank you.
I just put a 0 to me. Her name's up there.
Copies for everybody. Thank you.
Okay.
I feel like I'm in elementary
Okay, that's
school.
okay. We won't count that time against you.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it very greatly. I do have a couple of punch notes here. So what I'm specifically wanting to talk about is the towing contract. The city put it up for bid. It was awarded to Volusia County Towing. I am asking that at this time, we table the topic. I don't know if the approval has now passed, so maybe it's not an option. The facts and figures that I have before you are basically the cost and what it takes to actually do a tow. As you guys know, that sorry, my paper clip fell. The towing company pays the city a cost for each tow. The current provider that you guys have selected is Volusia County Towing. They are offering to pay the city $131.40 per tow. We're legally only allowed to charge $125 for a tow, so the numbers just kind of don't lie, and I just want everyone to try to step back, make an educated decision, because clearly someone ultimately will pay. And unfortunately, it's going to be the citizens of the shores, realistically. As you can see here on the cost analysis that I've done for you guys, the first section is just a basic tow, just a basic tow and go, what it costs to actually do a tow. The second bracket is a supplemental towing cost if it was a collision, where there's cleanup involved, getting the roadway back to a safe condition. The third section is the administrative cost. All these things are required by law, Florida State Statute 71378. It is common knowledge, but again, I have it all written down here just in case anyone would like to look. That being said, it doesn't leave a very large profit margin. The cost of a basic tow with no paperwork, no collision, is $83.69. That is my hard cost. If I'm allowed to charge $125, we have our profit margin. Now, if I have to pay the city an additional fee, there's not a lot left to spare. So I'm asking that we table it because, like I said, right now the current contractor is paying over what we're even allowed to charge. So it kind of just doesn't make sense. I think realistically, the numbers just don't lie. So I don't know if anyone has any
Thank you.
comments on
And City Manager, this is one of the contracts that fall under you that does not come to the commission, and you make the final decision on this. Is that correct?
No, you award it, the commission awards it.
Okay, all right, okay. All right, so we will take that into consideration. Thank you very much for coming today.
And then also, sorry, side note, if we choose not to table it, I would like to know how we wish to move forward, what the procedure will be in order to protect the citizen, what our safeguards are going to be, and, you know, so we have literature and paperwork to go off of. The second page in the back of my numbers is a list of trade references. All of those individual police departments have been in the same situation. They have investigated towing companies who unfortunately have been, you know, illegal and immoral practices. So if for some reason we don't table it, maybe these folks can lead us in the right direction or give us some advice to what they've done in the past and what's helped, and just, you know, give us some guidance moving forward.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate you coming in this evening.
Thank you.
Okay, next we'll go on. City Attorney, do you have anything for us this evening?
Not this evening, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our City Manager, what do you have for us this evening, Kirk?
1 second, I'm just turning to my notes here. On Friday, staff and the public had an opportunity to celebrate the retirement of 2 longtime serving employees. We had a luncheon for them on Friday. Liz Ortman served for 20 years as a records clerk for the city, and Mike Osborne served first as a public safety reserve officer and then evidence technician, and he served part-time since 1995. I just wanted to recognize them publicly tonight and their many years of service to the city. They'll be missed. So they did not want to come tonight.
Oh.
They didn't want public stuff. So
Okay, well,
Friday was enough, I was told. So normally we would have them, I know.
we have been blessed with some wonderful, wonderful long-term employees, so congratulations to them.
So non-conforming signs, I believe it's April 10th that deadline will be coming, and we have about 20, I don't have a firm number, but I believe it's around 20 that we still have outstanding. We sent a letter to all of those that are still outstanding to remind them that deadline is approaching, that they need to be doing something with their sign, even if it's just taking it down, because it is non-conforming. The staff is ready to follow up on that when we reach the April deadline. I just wanted to give you an update on that. I have asked Lieutenant Schoenbrod to come up and give you a brief update on Bike Week event and what kind of activity we had for the week. So, Lieutenant?
Good afternoon. Lieutenant Mike Schoenbrod. So Bike Week went very well overall. I'm sure you saw the hotels were packed, a lot of traffic on the road. Our agency took extra measures in mitigating traffic-related incidents and preventing more criminal activity because of the influx of the crowd. What we did, some of the things is, we put out 3 ghost cars. We put them throughout the city. We were constantly moving them. Typically, when drivers see police cars on the side of the road with their lights on, typically they slow down, so that helped with the speeding.
Saw them, I tried to wave, and then I noticed they were empty.
Nobody there.
Can everyone hear the lieutenant? Can you hear in the back? Okay, I think we're okay.
Some of the other things we did, we had extra officers out working traffic. We had our detectives out in uniform working traffic. We had our administration out working traffic. So with that, for the week, we had a total of 195 traffic stops, 165 citations, 14 written warnings. We only had 4 crashes, and only 2 of those had injuries, and they were very minor injuries. We had 16 felony arrests, 2 misdemeanor arrests. We did have 1 reported motorcycle theft that our investigators are investigating. And then we had 4 field contact cards for motorcycle gang FIs. So with that, I think it was overall a success. Something that I think should be noted is Halifax Medical Center put out a press release today that this year they had the highest admitted patients for Bike Week over the last 5 years. They had a total of 200 patients in this last week.
Injuries?
Injuries, trauma patients. So that's a 20% increase from last year. So I think with all the extra measures that we took to prevent all this, again, we had no major accidents, no major incidents, no violent crimes. I think overall it was a success.
Congratulations to you and your staff. We appreciate everything that we do. Yes, your presence was known. Can I ask you, I know when we have the trucks here, we have problems with them congregating at Publix and Winn-Dixie and various places. Do the motorcycles do that or not as much?
So not nearly as much. I did have one of the sergeants call me and tell me that there was a group gathering over on Florida Shores Beach Approach. And he said within a couple minutes of him being there, one of the gentlemen walked over to him and said he thought he was the FBI because he was looking at him through binoculars, and they quickly left. So other than that one small group, he said it wasn't many there, but not like the trucks.
Great. Okay, any questions for our lieutenant?
Did the article say why the give a reason for the 20% increase?
They did say because of the weather, that the beautiful weather, and they said that most of the injuries, the motorcyclists were not wearing helmets.
Was there an estimate of the crowd? Was it bigger too?
That I did not hear.
Okay.
I can tell you just from being out there, it looked bigger to me.
I know everywhere I went, it looked.
Okay, any other questions for our lieutenant? Thank you very much for being here this evening.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Yes, sir.
One other thing I'd like to bring up, we had waived permit fees for any hurricane damage, and we're starting to get in the permits for seawalls and pool decks and those kind of things that are coming. And I wanted to bring it up. We've been advocating for DEP to waive their permit fees at the state level for the seawall repairs, and saying we had waived ours for prior hurricane repairs. I just wanted to bring it up and see if the commission would like to consider waiving those fees. Stuart Cruz is ready to discuss some of what our fees are for those projects and how we assess those. If the commission would like, I would ask him to come up now and talk about that.
Please. All right, and so we want to be clear, this is just the seawall. And one of the questions I'll want to know, Stuart, when you come up, is if they turn in a total bill, do we have a way that we can simplify exactly what the seawall is compared to the pool or the pool deck?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Stuart Cruz, Community Services Director. So in terms of the permanent seawall permit status, what we have right now is we have 8 permits that have either been submitted and have either been approved or under review or just waiting to be picked up. And the ranges in terms of the fees associated with those projects varies anywhere from $700 up to $4,700 more or less. The fee is actually a function of the job cost. The job cost now is where it gets a little bit hairy and leads to the question that you're asking. Typically, whenever the contractor submits the permit, it includes not only the seawall, but it also includes stormwater, it includes the pool deck, it includes a whole bunch of other things. So it's kind of challenging to separate that from our perspective. The contractor himself would have to basically separate and line item each of those costs associated with that particular permit. So right now we have Seven Seas Resort, Days Inn, White Surf Condo, St. Martin Condo, Ashley Condo, Atlantic Ocean Palm, Hawaiian Inn, and Holiday Inn Express. Those are the 8 property owners that have submitted permits to us, and like I said, they're either approved or they're being reviewed, or they have been approved and just waiting to be picked up. If the city commission wanted to go ahead and explore this, obviously staff can work with the city attorney's office to do a resolution that would allow this waiver for a time certain, but we might also want to consider, these 8 entities that have already paid their fees, whether or not the city wants to reimburse it or not, I don't know, but that's something that you might want to consider as well. And we also want to consider that the DEP is also waiving, fees for local governments as well, and I believe it's around $3,500, more or less.
Right now, they're saying they're going to reduce some from 3,500 down to 1,000.
Okay.
That was
That's-
only for the rock revetment, so
Was that
anyway.
only for the rock revet? Okay, so, and I have not seen that in writing yet.
Are you, so my feeling is, because Kurt and I made 2 trips up to Tallahassee, and one of our asks is to please reduce it, so I would like to do that for the seawall, but, you know, I do want it separated out. So if it comes as one lump sum, then either go, those 8 properties, if we could go back and ask those contractors to separate those, and going forward, I'm in favor of waiving those permits, but I'll let everyone hear. Commissioner Bryan, do you have any feeling on it?
Yeah, I think we ought to waive permits. Do you have some idea what the percentage, average percentage is of seawalls versus the rest of the?
So in terms of the permit fee, it's less than 1%. It's around 5 to.
No, I meant the percentage of the costs versus seawall versus other costs.
Like if they-
I would think we don't know because they don't break it up.
I know.
Whatever they do break it down, then we'll be able to figure
I
that out.
understand, you don't have a feeling for what it is.
No, I wouldn't want to go out on a limb.
Okay.
Yes, Council.
Yeah, I was under the impression that we already voted to waive any permit fees that were associated with repair from either one of the 2 hurricanes. So why are we?
So that ended, is it?
January.
January
Oh, that
30th, right.
ended, okay.
So that right there was clean. Tell us the different kinds, and that wasn't just the condos, that was someone's air conditioning on
Yes,
the,
that was
anything
just
associated.
anything
Right.
that was hurricane damage, and that was actually extended, I believe, 2 or 3 times.
So it did end January 30th, and nobody really at that point was even able to be at a place. They didn't have their permits, they didn't have their contractors to even start a seawall. So now that that's coming around again, I would like to be able to waive those for just the
Yeah,
seawall.
so would I. I thought it was still in effect, but if it's not, I would certainly vote to extend it.
Commissioner Conmess?
Yes, I agree. And as a city, we've asked every level of government to do their part, cut through red tape, do what they can. So I think this is a great way that we can do our part. So I would agree with that.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
I'll be in harmony with the balance of the commission. The only thing that I've seen come across my desk is that insurance companies do reimburse the homeowner for those permit fees costs. Not every insurance policy, not every insurance company, but it would be interesting if we could put some language that would say, as long as it's not reimbursable by insurance. But then again, it's difficult, if not impossible, to kind of monitor that. But I just wanted to throw that out because it has come across my desk, and even though I don't do first-party claims, I do them in conjunction with another law firm. But you'd be surprised what's going on out there. So I think as a body, as a commission, we should extend that good faith assistance by waiving the permit fees in this very limited capacity. I don't think it's going to offset or really affect us substantially financially as a city.
Okay, and I guess for clarification, my understanding was that seawalls were not insurable.
That was my understanding as well. I have heard that there are some rare cases in which maybe 1 or 2 condos were able to somehow get it under their building insurance, but I have heard that as well.
So the majority would not be able to collect on insurance. Okay. Commissioner?
Yeah, what is the average permit fee for these different things that are being requested now?
So right now, again, because everything's lump sum, it ranges from about $700 up to $4,700 in terms of the permit fees, and that's excluding the state permit fees, well, the Department of Community Affairs, I believe it's called, the DCA permit fee as well. So I took that out when I did the math.
So would the $4,700 be a seawall, or would that be other?
It would be a combination of different things. So typically, it's not just a seawall that's damaged, it's also the pool deck area, and underneath that, you have plumbing, you have stormwater, you have all these different things that are associated with that. And so they typically just compile all that together under one permit.
That would be in a condo building that had X number of residents, is that correct?
A condo building or a hotel.
Okay, what would you say the average fee is that you're seeing?
Okay, again, so right now.
Tell us out the high and the low, and just what is the
right now,
middle
it's
ground?
like, it would be about maybe 25 to 3,000.
Oh, okay.
And again, these are just the first 8. Remember, you know, a lot of other applicants are actually undergoing the permitting process, you know, and so we don't actually assign a fee. We don't start to actually review the permit until the DEP approval has been granted. And once that has been granted, it takes us a day or 2 to basically turn it around, and that's when we assign the fee. So there are others out there that we just haven't included just yet.
I have a question.
Yes.
The non-seawall costs, is it your opinion that they would also fall into the category of hurricane damage?
Yes. Yes, I mean, it's all tied together.
So I think, you know, we might want to consider, since it's all hurricane damage.
It's at the commission's pleasure.
And I believe that that part is insurable, the deck and the pool. So what I, I'm sorry, you're gonna ask him another question?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Is that the case, that the other costs are?
I'm not an insurance expert. I don't know that. I just know that, that I've been told that the vast majority of seawalls were uninsured.
Are you pretty sure of that, Nancy?
I'm pretty sure of that. Okay, all right, so, you know, so we were looking to try and help them for something that was, our understanding, was not insurable. So if we're going from $700 to $4,700 in that range, I'm thinking if we're waiving those permits, that's a substantial amount that we'll be able to help our condos and our community with. That was my feeling. Does anyone else have anything else they want to add to that? Nothing? Okay. So we're not voting on this
No,
evening, so, yes.
for the next meeting, we'll bring back
Thank you.
the appropriate agenda item to address that. Just to be clear, you, though, I want to make sure, do you want to include retroactive for those 8, or how many ever between now and that next meeting, to include that in the agenda item, that it's retroactive?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, and while we're still on the permits, Kurt, would you like to go over, or I can too, that we did receive an updated report today from Daytona Beach Shores that we get once a week, and let's share the good news we did see today?
Yes, so it appears from the report that there's actually about 26, and I've learned a little bit more since we talked, Mayor, that a couple of those are minor things that aren't really, I'm not sure they're what we were hoping they were. But there's about 26 minus 2 or 3 that have actually been issued for major seawall repair. So
Isn't that how we filtered?
there were some in there that were minor seawall repairs.
So we're saying about 22.
Yes.
All right.
With possibly 3 more that are, it's an interesting use of terms, that are complete, which in my thought would be that they're complete, meaning the project is done and the permit's closed out, but no, DEP does it as that's complete, now it can be issued. So there's 3 more that are real close.
So we're looking about 25 overall.
Yes.
Out of, do you remember what the total number was, at 100 and some? Well, that was hard too, because some was trap bags.
Right, we had 127 properties that were damaged that will all require permits to some level. So we're up to about 25%, which is good to hear.
So all in all, that was great news to have that.
So one big thing, though, that we've heard and was discussed at the elected officials roundtable is that folks need to have their permit issued and construction begun by May 1. Last meeting, we talked about the permit just being issued by May 1, but what was said by the county officials is they're being told by Fish and Wildlife and U.S. Wildlife Services that construction has to begin by May 1, not just the permit issuance. There's a big difference. And I think the mayor even asked the question, well, what does construction has begun mean?
Go with a hammer.
And it was said that it really has to be substantial work. The supplies are on site, you know, they're actually doing something. It can't just be that you put a shovel in the ground, dug a hole, and said, okay, I'm ready for my first footer.
I was on my way to Ace to buy 12 shovels.
Exactly. So, but we don't have that in writing from Fish and Wildlife, so we're hoping to get that, the county is as well. And that kind of leads me into the last thing. I handed out a flyer. I'm going to tell everybody to be on the lookout for this flyer. If you received a letter from the county, they have identified certain properties that they're going to try and assist with temporary measures in the form of trap bags, but they need to get easements first. So on Monday, the city is hosting the Beach Nourishment Easement Open House as asked by the county, and it's open to all properties that they've noticed, but this only covers the first $5 million worth of money. We have another 37.6 that when they do beach renourishment, they're gonna need easements from every property out there. So I'm encouraging everybody to come listen to the county on this. If you receive the letter, bring your forms. They'll have notaries there to execute it. And they are trying, they haven't gotten official word from FEMA yet, but they're also trying to, as part of this, get FEMA to remove the debris, their old seawall, from the property so that they can place trap bags in front of it. And what they showed us was it would be a row of 2 trap bags back to back with a, they call it a scour skirt. I don't know what that is yet, but it's supposedly protects the trap bags from scour somehow. So they're really trying to do a lot of good things quickly. The agreements are still pending at every level, but they won't be able to do anything on anybody's property without an easement. So if you receive the letter, please come Monday to that, Monday 5:30 upstairs, and we'll try and expedite that process.
5 or 5:30?
This says, the flyer says 5:30.
Okay, I had thought they said 5, but that's
I
okay.
think they did yesterday, but the flyer says 5:30, so.
All right, and Kurt, do you know, will there actually be a presentation, or will it be like similar that tables were set up? Have you discussed that with anyone?
I was told they were gonna give a brief talk, but I don't have,
Okay, is there any way we can verify then? I'd hate for it to start, the talk to start at 5 if this flyer says 5:30. Can you check tomorrow, please?
well, I will tell them we're not starting at 5, we're starting at 5:30 because their flyer says 5:30. So,
All right.
but yeah, I'll follow up on that. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Yeah, what about turtle season? They're saying they want substantial work to start by May 1st. What are they gonna do about turtle season when we've got substantial work going on?
So what they're going to be requiring is and again, we don't have, the county does not have this in writing yet, but what they've been told is they're going to allow those to continue to work, but the county has to provide monitors to go out each morning before they begin work and make sure that there's no turtles being impacted, or that overnight they didn't come up and lay, or establish a nest where that seawall is being repaired. If that's the case, that project is gonna stop. But they have to do.
So we're gonna continue through turtle season with construction?
Yes, if they have begun construction before May 1.
They've started.
If you don't have your permit by May 1 and you haven't begun construction by May 1, you're waiting till officially November 1, but they have said that if the turtles have significantly cleared the beach, they may open it up as early as the end of September.
Kurt, they discussed it all, and several people have brought this up, that we don't have any dunes. So if it becomes May 15th, May 30th, June 1st, and there's no sign of turtles, was that brought up in the conversation at all?
It was discussed, but I think the
Turtle people.
Yeah,
We know who you're talking
turtle
about.
people, for lack of a better term,
Feel like they will come.
will be saying that they will come. The good news for us, though, is from what I've been told at one of the county meetings, was that north of us is where the majority of our turtles go. And they're really, even though our beach has come back, there's really not a lot of dune for them to go to. So
Are you saying north in Daytona, Ormond, or Flagler and above?
No, the north part of our county. And that's all they were talking about, is where our county gets impacted is really the north and south of us. And since our beach is so flat and most of the soft sand is already gone, while it's coming back, it's not back to where it was, obviously. So there won't be as much enticing habitat for them to establish a nest.
All right, and then one further question, if you know the answer to this. Years ago, I understand when we had underground utilities, we asked our residents to sign an easement. A few of them charged that back to the city, would not sign it. In this particular case, or, you know, they signed it, but they wanted to pay for it. So in this particular case, if anyone does not sign the easement, then they get no trap bags, no sand, no any temporary measures. Is that, okay?
Yeah, the county won't be paying anybody for an easement to protect their property for them. In this case, it's, if you don't sign the easement, you get nothing.
Okay, just want to make
Hate
sure
to be
that.
blunt, but
Yes.
that's,
Okay. Okay, any other questions for our city manager on anything that he had on here, or anything that we'd like to ask him at all? Okay, if not, Sherry Schwab is our notary, and she usually does our quasi judicial hearing. This evening, we have the pleasure of having our vice mayor, because he's a notary. So this is ordinance 2022-26, rezoning application. Becky, is there an ordinance? Is there something for you to read, or we'll start?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, there
thank you.
is. This is ordinance number 2022-26, an ordinance of the City of Daytona Beach Shores, Volusia County, Florida, assigning the RSF2 Urban Single Family Residential Detached District zoning classification to annex single-family residential property generally located at 3615 Cardinal Boulevard. Short tax parcel ID 6302-05-10-0111, providing modification of the official zoning map, providing for implementing administrative actions, providing for non-codification, providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. And Vice Mayor, would you like to swear in?
Is there anyone else who'll be testifying?
Anyone else in the audience that will be testifying on this ordinance 2022-26?
Okay. You guys swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth during this hearing?
Thank you. Noel?
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Noel Eaton, City Planner. This is ordinance 2022-26. This is, you previously heard two other properties. This has been postponed and renoticed from the February 14th meeting. So it has been legally advertised again and renoticed. We had some issues with our publishing company posting the wrong ads. So this is amendment, ordinance 2022-26. This is to assign the RSF2 zoning district classification to recently annexed property at 3615 Cardinal Boulevard. The applicant and owner is Teresa Durkin, and the property size is approximately 5,000 square feet. The previous or current zoning is Volusia County R6, which allows single-family homes. The existing use is a single-family home, and will continue with the proposed RSF2 zoning district in Daytona Beach Shores. This is just an aerial view and a location map of the property. The aerial view shows the single-family nature of the surrounding houses, and then the location map shows in the green the city limits of Daytona Beach Shores. This property is already annexed into the city, so it is part of our city limits. This is just our zoning map showing on the left that it was in the county, and on the right is the RSF2 zoning district, consistent with the property to the south. The analysis shows that all the requirements of section 14-66 have been met, and the notice requirements have also been met. Staff has recommended approval. The Planning and Zoning Board held a public hearing in November and recommended approval, and then the City Commission held first reading on January 10th and voted to approve ordinance 2022-26.
Thank you. And Becky, would this be public participation?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak at the property at 3615 Cardinal? And is the property owner here?
No, she does not live here.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner?
Isn't this basically routine housekeeping after an annexation?
That's correct. It's just administrative. We just have to assign our land use and zoning.
I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay. All right, do you hear a motion?
Also,
I move we approve 2022-26.
Okay, thank you. And we have a second from Commissioner Economos. That motion was from Brian, Commissioner Brian. Okay, do we have any discussion? Okay, if not, can we take a vote, please?
Commissioner Bryan,
Yes.
Commissioner Economos,
yes.
Vice Mayor Gladys,
Yes.
Commissioner Lindau,
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes, thank you. Okay, and this is another housekeeping item, ordinance 2026-25, comprehensive plan future use. Becky, can you read that for us, please?
Yes, this is ordinance number 2022-25, an ordinance of the City of Daytona Beach Shores, Volusia County, Florida, relating to comprehensive planning, amending the City of Daytona Beach Shores Comprehensive Plan, amending Chapter 1, Future Land Use Element by amending Map L4 entitled Generalized Future Land Use Map 2030, assigning the residential low-intensity future land use designation to annex single-family residential property generally located at 3615 Cardinal Boulevard, short tax parcel ID 6302-05-10-0111, providing for implementing actions, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for non-codification, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Noel?
Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor, Noel Eaton, City Planner. This is ordinance 2022-25. This is the second component of this administrative action to assign a future land use designation of residential low intensity to the recently annexed property at 3615 Cardinal Boulevard. This is the same exact house. The current land use is Volusia County urban low intensity, which allows up to 4 units per acre. That is consistent with our City of Daytona Beach Shores future land use residential low intensity, which allows up to the 4 units per acre. This house will remain a single-family home. This is the same aerial view and location map of the property. And then here is our future land use map on the left showing it in the county, and on the right it is the residential low intensity, which is consistent with the Volusia County land use. The impact summary shows that there's no change in this ordinance and all public notice requirements have been met. Staff is recommending approval. The Planning and Zoning Board held a public hearing on November 7th and recommended approval, and the City Commission held first reading on January 10th and voted to approve ordinance 2022-25.
Thank you. Do you hear a motion to accept 2022-25?
I so move.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, if not, Joanna, our Vice Mayor, Politis, motion. Commissioner Economos, second. If you could take a roll, please.
Yes, ma'am. Vice Mayor Gladys,
Yes.
Commissioner Economos,
Yes.
Commissioner Lindau,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryan,
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes, thank you. Okay, next we'll go on to new business, and this is Resolution 2023-05. Attorney Rose, can you read that resolution for us, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, this is resolution number 2023-05, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Daytona Beach Shores adopting a travel policy for elected officials, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Kurt, do you want, this was previously staff that put together this policy, and you're feeling that since it's our policy,
Yes, so it,
if you could give us a background.
yeah, many years ago, and I'm drawing a blank, I want to say it was 2012 or 13. Sorry, I didn't turn my microphone off. Around 2012 or 13, if I remember correctly, the council at the time directed the city manager to put a policy together, and we have city manager policies, and he did based on the council at the time, but it was brought up at one of our prior meetings that I'm not real comfortable as a city manager telling the policymakers what their policy will be to govern themselves. So it was requested if we could bring that policy back to you as the policymakers to set a policy for your travel policy for yourselves. And that's what you have before you tonight for your consideration. And the attorney really crafted the resolution based off of the existing city manager policy, but it's in the form of a resolution, and then any future commission can amend it as they see fit. I do want to just note that travel can be as determined by you, but it still needs to be in the budget. There needs to be money for you to travel and your approval, and that would, any future, if you adopt this policy, those items would come on the agenda, the consent agenda, and there would be a financial impact statement, which would tell you how much money you have left in the budget for if they're miscellaneous items or things like that. And there are exceptions to the travel policy that you don't need to have approved included in that, like the League of Cities dinners that we attend and those kind of things that we know we attend on a regular basis. But the outside of normal events would be covered under this policy.
Okay, great. Do you hear a motion to accept Resolution 2023-05?
So move.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on this policy? Okay, Joanna, we have a motion from Commissioner Lindauer, a second from Vice Mayor Politis. Can you take a roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Lindauer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Politis,
Yes.
Commissioner Economos,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryan,
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes, thank you, Joanna. Now we're going to move on to Resolution 2023-06, Emergency Pay Policy. Attorney Voice, can you read that for us, please?
Yes, this is Resolution 2023-06, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Daytona Beach Shores, Florida, approving an emergency pay policy, providing for severability, providing for conflict, providing for implementing actions, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. And so this policy is just going forward anytime that we have an emergency situation, whether it be like a hurricane, weather-related, anything that comes along. We wanted a policy in place providing how we would be paying our staff. So do I hear a motion to accept 2023-06?
So move.
I'll second.
All right, so any discussion or any questions on this policy? All right, so this will be how it will be going forward once we approve this. So Vice Mayor Politis made the motion, and did you?
Yes.
Okay, and it was Commissioner Lindauer that seconded it. So Joanna, could you take a roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Vice Mayor Politis,
Yes.
Commissioner Lindauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Economos,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryan,
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes, thank you. Okay, and the next two things are discussion items that came up from our agenda last meeting. The first one was a standalone restaurant on the east side of South Atlantic Avenue, and I believe our director has some information on Stuart. One of the things in particular, I'm sorry, I don't want, were like Land Shark and, or is that our city manager that's gonna?
Well, I'll address it first,
Okay.
and then we can pull Stuart, he's got more information. So what, after that last meeting where it was requested to bring this forward, and I believe it was Commissioner Economos that made this request, and staff did look into the Land Shark and Krabby's, and Stuart has more details, but those are each actually not just standalone. They're part of a larger planned development, and those are, call it phase one of that, to eventually be replaced by a large structure. But as you're aware, city code currently says no restaurants on that side. So one of the things we looked at was why did previous council make that decision? And one of the big differences, we looked at Land Shark, and using our tax rate of what the assessed value was, it would bring in $30,000 a year. And we looked at the Aruba as a condo at 84 units, and it brings in $175,000 in tax revenue a year. And so I think that was, I can't speak for that prior council, but I think that was one of the drivers of why they adopted that particular code back in the day, because it's such a dramatic difference in value. And one of the things that our property owners do know, especially in the vacant parcels, is that they can command a higher value for that because they know they can build condos on it.
So why couldn't that be done in the Shores?
A situation similar to what they did in Daytona probably could be done.
So one example, if I can, and Director Cruz can maybe address this. So the property that was the previous Treasure Island, is this true, Director Cruz, that they could build a hotel or a condo on one side of the property if they chose to build a restaurant on the sunny shores? They could do that?
Yes, they could.
Okay, all right, because that would be part of a larger development.
Correct. And in the case of the longboard project over there where in Daytona where Crab is in Landshark, it's actually a planned development. So what you see out there right now is actually just the first phase of a larger development that has 25 years to be developed according to the development agreement associated with the planned development. And in that development agreement, it calls for potentially a convention center, a hotel, multifamily residential development, and other types of commercial uses, and also potentially a boardwalk as well. So it's part of a larger comprehensive development plan that they have for that site. So it's not a standalone restaurant zoning or entitlement for that property itself.
And like the Treasure Island property, correct me if I'm wrong, but would need an amendment to their development agreement to do something like that?
Correct. If the Treasure Island property or any other property, on the east side of South Lake Avenue here in Daytona Beach Shores want to have just a standalone commercial restaurant, or some sort of amendment would be required to either their zoning, their comprehensive plan, future land use, or in the case of Treasure Island, the development agreement would need.
So where I was going with that is it could be done. It just would be requiring change in code, change in the development agreement, or those type of things.
So it's not completely off limits as we thought it was before. If it was part of a larger development plan, it would be.
Certainly.
Okay. In all actuality, though, if that Treasure Island property, if you're gonna have a hotel and a restaurant, or a hotel and a condo, which one's probably gonna bring you more revenue as a developer? Would probably be the condo on that second piece of property. But if they chose to put a restaurant there, if that was their choice and worked out all the amendments and everything, then it would be.
Yeah, I think we would be more likely to see a combination with a restaurant of some size, say on the first floor, or maybe second, that, you could walk out on the ocean front with condos or hotel above it.
Okay. At one time, and I don't think it was Margaritaville, but it was something to that, there was talk that maybe they would go there and then open up a margarita restaurant along with that, which would be perfect. So something like that we would be open to. Is that correct, Director?
Yes, and of course, all this is subject to the proper amendment and land use entitlement process that we have to go through in the state of Florida and here in Daytona Beach Shores.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on that, Commissioner?
No, I brought up the question just because most coastal towns in Volusia County do have restaurants on the beach. And as far as I know, Daytona Beach Shores is the only one that doesn't. Now, I understand Wilbur does not, but Ponce Inlet does, Myrtle Beach does, Ormond by the Sea, Ormond Beach does. So I just was curious really why we don't have that, so.
Okay. Any other questions or follow-up? Yes, Commissioner?
I just have one comment, and I think it's our job to get the best use out of any existing property. And to me, when the choice comes between a condo or an apartment building or something like that versus a restaurant, a standalone restaurant, I would certainly vote for the condo because it's going to benefit more residents and lower our tax base.
Yeah,
So that would be my vote.
I would agree with that, but again, there are other things that can be done as well in a larger, an agreement, but I would agree with that too.
And then Stuart, one other follow-up question on that. I'm trying to think if I know of a couple of them. Two examples that I know of is the Delta Hotel and then our new Max. At the beginning, the Venn Bar and Restaurant was going to be for residents only that were staying there, and now they've opened it up. So a hotel could come
Yep.
and say, okay, I want a restaurant along with me, and then that would be waterfront, correct?
Definitely, and that is actually permitted by right, because a restaurant in that case would be an accessory use, whereas a restaurant associated with a hotel, associated with a multifamily residential development is not an accessory use.
Okay, great.
And that's the reason why we would have to go through the changes.
Okay, great explanation, thank you. Okay, anything else? If not, we'll move on to discussion on the alternate tax relief, as continuing that. So, City Manager, I'm gonna start this and then I want you to help me with that. So when most of this council took office about 4 years ago, we were very, very committed to helping businesses, trying to bring new businesses back into the shores. At that time, we established an economic development committee, and on that committee, we said, what could we do to have something come that we can help them out? So we had, I think we called it 3 prongs to a fork. So I know the one is that we still have in place, and I'm all for keeping that one, and that was if someone was leasing it, we gave them a lease incentive for 3 years. I think it's 30, 20, 10, is that correct? And that one, I don't think we've had anyone new coming for that, but I'd still like to keep that in place. One of the other ones we have was a 10%. And again, these are learning lessons. We're doing things to try to get people to come in. We saw for various reasons that didn't work out, and I think we sunsetted that one pretty early. This last one we have was an ATR. So this was more or less focused on the east side, that we were going to bring properties in and give them alternate tax relief. I'm thinking right now we have very few properties left in the shores, and the properties that we have are prime properties that we really, at this point, my opinion, we don't need to incent developers to come in. So I would like to sunset this portion of the economic development too, but I would like to hear from everybody up on the dais. So Vice Mayor, do you want to start with that one?
I have seen it work, and you're not giving up a lot of income. What you're doing is you're giving up a little bit of taxable revenue that you could earn, but you have to understand it's probably a case-by-case basis. You've got a developer that's coming in that's going to put in a high-end product. They'll have multiple locations that they're going to use as candidates, you know, this town, somewhere else, you know, Cocoa Beach, St. Augustine, what have you. And in order to attract, you may have to be just as competitive as those other venues. So I would be inclined to say, let's just leave it alone and have it as a tool in the event that someone does come and then starts interacting with staff, and then staff goes, well, we don't have anything on the books. We can't do that. Then all of a sudden, you no longer become a viable candidate. I'd just like to leave it open and just, we'll deal with it on a case-by-case basis.
I think I posed this question to you, Attorney Voice. If we did do away with this, could we put something similar into a development agreement, again, on a case-by-case basis?
Yes, yes, you could, and it's not required to have an ordinance like this in order to give those rights to people.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say that my firm represents other local governments that do this without having an implementing ordinance. It's because it's based on statute.
Okay.
So we could do it.
Okay, thank you. So I hope that helps you, Vice Mayor, okay, with that. And I agree with you too, you know, case by case, what are you bringing to us? What type of property? And then I think what was happening in this case, that this was almost understood, you can have this for 20 years, you know, and that wasn't the case, and that wasn't the intent when we started with it. Actually, you know, when we say it's not that much, you know, getting back to the Treasure Island property, had it closed at that time, it would have been a very high dollar amount. So, I would like, and I'm gonna ask everyone's opinion, to do away with this and then work on a development agreement at that time based on the case there. So, Commissioner Economos?
I would agree with you and Vice Mayor Politis.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner?
Yes, I agree too, and I was going to suggest the same thing, that it just be part of a development agreement, which comes to us, and we'll take a look at the whole package, which again is a case-by-case basis, just as Vice Mayor alluded to.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Bryan?
Yeah, I think doing away with the ordinance sort of, in some ways, does away with the Treasure Island precedent, so they're not expecting this. And we can accomplish the same thing on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. So on this then, Becky, do we need to go back to what we had previously and you need to rewrite that for the next, or how do we go about now that we've
Okay,
decided?
I will prepare an ordinance that repeals that, and that will be a simple fix.
Okay, and would that be available in 2 weeks for our next council meeting?
Yes, of course.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right, I think that's all we needed on that. So next we will go on to council comments. Vice Mayor, what do you have for us this evening?
Yeah, I have a big disappointment with city staff. The clock's not working right. Everybody's got to fix the clock.
I can't reach it.
No, I don't have any comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Economos?
I just want to thank the public safety officers for doing such a fantastic job during Bike Week. I love those ghost patrol vehicles out there. I wish you could keep those out there every day, different parts of the city. But again, as always, you folks do a great job, keep us safe. And I didn't see, we live right on A1A, and I saw very little impact of Bike Week. So I know we don't get the majority of traffic, but what I did see, everybody was maintaining speed limits, so that is attributed to you folks, so thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll pass that along to the audience.
Yes, I love the one, was that at A1A and Oceans West? That one, you saw them coming around the corner, and you could visibly see everybody slowing down, so. The only comment that I have right now is remember that this, we had to change the date of Coffee with the Mayor because City Manager and I were in Tallahassee last week. And so Coffee with the Mayor will be tomorrow. I think it'll be a very interesting meeting. We will have Jessica Frentress. She's the Director of Coastal for Volusia County, as well as Suzanne Conchen, who is the Deputy County Manager. So both of them will be there tomorrow. 10 o'clock, 10 to 11 in the Community Center on the second floor. Light refreshments, and we'd love to have you. And just as a reminder, is it March 24th we'll have the concert? Director Maddox? 21st? Oh, 31st. All right, March 31st. Okay, so we'll have a meeting before then. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to compliment public safety for the strategic location of the two flashing lights at Dunlawton and A1A and north on A1A. So people coming in, the bikers and the others coming in, saw that, hey, they're here waiting for us. And coming down A1A, that stretch there where that car was parked with the flashing light is a typical place where people speed up because there are no intersections in that. So I think those were really strategic locations, and I compliment you on that.
Thank you. Commissioner Bryan.
Yeah, I'm going to hand out one page. Kurt and I have been talking about a meeting to discuss seawalls, basically other temporary armoring and permanent armoring. This page basically just delineates about 5 objectives of the meeting. And we were originally referring to it as a workshop, but we changed it to meeting because we didn't want to confuse it with a formal council workshop. It would still be noticed, just like a council meeting, but it wouldn't be a formal workshop. The first objective is to gather and share information. There are a lot of CMOL designs out there. That's not necessarily a good thing, but that's the way it is. And I think people can learn from what other people are doing. And secondly, is to explore the cost of temporary armoring alternatives. In my opinion, almost all the properties should have some type of temporary armoring that would be designed to protect against the whole hurricane, the next hurricane season. I believe when we come to the end of the hurricane season, there'll be a relatively small percentage of actual seawalls built by that time. Coffer Dam basically is a dam around the construction area. I don't know that it's cost effective, but what it can do is extend the hours of construction in a 24-hour period. If the area is such that they have to move basically slow-moving equipment like cranes on and off the beach twice for high tides during, it may be more cost-effective to just build a dam around it and leave their equipment on the beach. I think we all know that there's a certain amount of gouging going on. It's maybe more obvious in terms of the price people are paying for surveys, because you have a discrete price and a discrete number. And the surveys are a very small percentage of the overall costs. So the kind of gouging that's going on in terms of the actual seawall, and it's not just the general contractor, it's all the suppliers, suppliers of coquina rock, suppliers of sand. I think the prices are basically, I would categorize some of them as gouging. Probably the most important objective I highlighted in yellow, there's a significant cost savings to be had if several property owners get together and build a common seawall. And there are a couple reasons for that. One is just general economies of scale. But right now, a lot of properties are building, each property they're building a return wall, and the property right next to them is also building a return wall. So you have two return walls instead of maybe zero if this were a long seawall. You wouldn't need, you definitely wouldn't need as long a return wall. And some engineers would say, if you build this seawall correctly, you don't need any return walls except the ones on the north and south end of the long wall. So that's where a significant cost savings. I think, depending on how long it is, the savings are on the order of 25 to 40%, which is, and I think we need to get that message out to the 165 property owners, because right now, particularly the condos, when they can divide the cost 20 ways, 50 ways, 100 ways, 200 ways, they're not as cost sensitive as single-family owners and smaller. So I think we ought to make sure that everybody understands if they get together and cooperate with their neighbor, they can save quite a bit of money. So we have a list of information we'd like for people to provide it before the meeting in writing, and then however many want to participate in the meeting, we see it as like 10 minutes of a presentation that would just summarize what they already put in writing, and then maybe 5 minutes of question and answer.
So I have a couple questions. I know this last one that you have highlighted here, this was the intent of our city manager probably 3 to 4 months ago before they even did any of these seawalls, and I think he grouped them, by their addresses and everything. Why was that not so successful at that time?
I think, number one, I don't think people understood that they could save money getting together. It was basically just saying, you guys should get together and share information. So I don't think that was a very strong message. I think we need to get the message out that they can save a significant amount of money.
And this will be no recommendation for any engineer, for any construction company?
No, this is engineers, and, well, the primary person would be the condo president or his designee or the property owner. And that person could decide whether the engineer even participates in the participation in presentation or does the whole presentation, and that'll be up to the property owner or the condo president.
And your intent is then to invite every one of the properties that were dead, the 129 properties that were dead?
No, only, if an engineer has a dozen properties, there would only be one property that's invited.
Okay, all right.
Madam Mayor, it would be a public meeting, so anybody could come to it. But in our conversations, what we're trying to do is, at the meeting that I kind of hosted, we didn't have anybody who'd gone through the process. And so now the idea is to get some of the condos that have their permits and have gone through the process, and maybe their engineer, to come speak and talk about what they found, what their costs are, if they're willing to share, those details, because we have a lot of folks who, we talked earlier about the permits that have been done. There's also a lot that haven't done anything yet, and I think it's from a lack of understanding of the process. So if we can get neighbors with neighbors who have done it, I do agree with Commissioner Bryan that if 2 or 3 work together to build a seawall, and instead of building 2 return walls that actually abut each other, they build one or none if it's a long contiguous seawall, that there is significant cost savings for the folks to recognize out there, while fully understanding that condo A may already be well along in their process, and condo B next door, they have $4,000 in reserves and aren't anywhere near ready to even hire their engineer, and there's some of those challenges ahead. But if we can get neighbors with neighbors who've gotten it done, it's one of the things I love about America is we help each other out, and I think that's the intent of this, is to have folks that are now subject matter experts, because they've been living it and breathing it, and we want the ones that have gotten their permits and have their contracts ready to go to be the ones presenting and talking about what they've done.
Great. And do we have a target date for this?
But we have not talked about a date yet.
My personal opinion is it should occur sometime in the next 2 weeks.
Okay. Well, I want to do whatever we can to help our condos and our residents, and it seems like some of them, as we've said now, we probably have 25 that already have permits. I'm assuming they have their construction company, or they wouldn't have been able to turn in, but that means there's a lot left that have not, so, yes. So I'm fine with this, Commissioner.
I would like to encourage any input, if you have any tonight, how best to try to get people together, or if you don't have anything tonight, if you could let Kurt know if you come up with a bright idea.
Okay. Commissioner Lindauer, do you have any comment on that?
No.
Okay, any comment on Commissioner Bryan?
No, I think city has reached out to condo managers in the past, have you?
Correct.
I mean,
And
you
we would
spread the
again.
word through them, yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And we have a list from last time too, when Kurt had that, so we'll be able to do that. Okay, and I wanted to thank you for all the work you've done on your seawalls. I know you've worked very, very hard on that.
Just for clarification, there is consensus to go ahead and do
Yes,
that.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, anything else, Commissioner Brent?
No.
Okay. All right, if there's no other comments from the dais, then the next thing is we'll move on to audience comment. Audience comments, and John, if you'd like to come forward. Joanne, if you can't get that clock to start, do you have it on your iPhone or?
I think I just figured it out.
Okay, great. Name and address?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm John Nissenzo, and I live at 3023 South Atlantic Avenue.
You get closer to the mic, please, for the people, the audience.
Close enough?
Yes, that sounds great.
You can bend it down.
I'm just teasing.
Okay.
No. Okay, I want to talk about the dog parks.
Okay.
Okay, they considerably went downhill for a long time. When they were first put in, I suggested a sprinkler system because all the grass is dying. Not just some of the grass, it's all dying. Doesn't matter if you put grass there, you know we don't get the rain that we should get, every year. It just seems like we get less and less rain. And if we at least had a sprinkler system in there, it would come on, say, like at midnight or something, it would help. a lot. Actually, they only cut the grass once a month. I think that's kind of ridiculous. And then they don't weed whack, they don't edge the concrete sidewalk that goes to the, I call it the picnic table for the people that are watching their dogs. Just recently, my dog ate a piece of a tennis ball. For some reason, we have people that think that they can take their used tennis balls from the tennis courts out here and throw them all in the parks. Well, that's not a good idea, because they go there, they cut the grass. What happens, the dogs eat it, and it doesn't come out the other end. I just recently almost lost my dog, and after $1,000 at the Volusia Hospital on Ridgewood, he finally came back. So, do I use the dog park anymore? No. I don't suggest anyone to use that dog park until it really gets cleaned up properly. And that's what I wanted to mention today, because I don't want to see another dog go through it, my dog did.
Okay, I'm so sorry that happened to your dog. And can,
That's it. Thank
okay,
you so much.
can I ask you after the meeting to get with our Director Cruz and go over some of those, I know the sprinkler has been suggested before. The grass is almost gone, it's almost dirt, but whatever you want to discuss with Director Cruz, let's see what we can do to help him out. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because the dust over there is ridiculous too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any other audience comments that have requested to speak. Is there anyone else? I always open it up to anyone else that would like to speak. Yes, if you'd like to come forward again, you have to come up here for.
I actually just had a follow-up question, and perhaps I should have asked it earlier, I apologize. Will anyone be getting back with me, or should I follow up with someone? Is that a Sherry question, or the
City manager?
department?
Get with me after the meeting.
Okay, sorry.
That's
I
okay,
asked
no,
it earlier.
that's okay, that's fine. I'm sorry you had to wait all this time just for the follow-up question. Thank you. Okay, if we have no other audience comments, what do we have for our meeting? Any agenda items right now that we want put on for our meeting in 2 weeks? Attorney Vogt, you'll
We'll
have that.
have that repealed.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, if no other items right now, thank you so much for coming, your attention. We appreciate every one of you, and the meeting